We all need gis, rash guards, and a bunch of gear to train Jiu-Jitsu. Here at Roll Academy, we've been using Fuji Sports for a very, very long time, but more importantly, they've been sponsoring the Roll Radio podcast for over a year at this point. Gary?
Yeah, I'm checking out the website right now. Anything you could possibly need, but the new stuff, this American Grappler stuff, is amazing. It's so slick looking. Rash guard shorts, really cool. Giant eagle on it. It is nice. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, they've got the Be a Menace Happy No-Gi lineup. So as you're getting choked out, you're looking up at the nice smiley face emoji. Anything you could possibly need, you can find at fujisports.com.
You have questions, I have answers. I started a brand new podcast just recently that's available on all podcast platforms and YouTube. It's called Ask a Black Belt. Very simple. You drop me questions, I answer them. Very simple. 5-6 minutes. Gary, have you heard it?
I have heard it, and I really appreciate it. How do those questions get to you?
Well, listen, you can message me on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. But you can also comment on any post that I make, and I try to genuinely answer the questions as fast as I can, and they get posted 3 times a week as it is right now.
Beautiful. Ask a Black Belt. Check it out on your favorite podcast platform.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we're live.
Here we go again.
Let's make an impact.
Let's make an impact. Okay, sure. How are we going to do that?
Great conversation with Victor.
Yeah, Victor Estima.
Victor Estima in the house this week. A lot of deep stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, for some reason, I was not expecting that deep of a conversation. I don't know. I don't know why my expectations of the conversations were just very different. You know, he really went deep.
Yeah, I think I was kind of expecting it just from the research I did, and his brother as well. After talking to his brother, I kind of thought we would maybe, get some knowledge out of him that maybe some other people haven't offered us yet.
Yeah, and then don't take me wrong. Is that not that I thought that Victor is a pushover or nobody.
No.
I'm just saying, I thought the conversation would go slightly different direction. Mm-hmm. But it was very, very deep.
Yeah. That's what's fun about this is I think, when things take a course that you didn't expect.
It was very organic conversation.
Uh-huh.
What was your big takeaway from this?
I think he had several events in his life that had major impacts on him and left their stamp. And I think that not those specific events, but it was just like how events in your life do leave an impact on you, whether they're positive or negative, and what you take out of it. 'Cause you can make a positive out of something negative, I don't know if you'll ever you could take something that was positive and turn it into a negative as well.
Absolutely.
I think so. And so that was like the biggest thing for me is how things happen to you throughout your life that really can change your course.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I think that's life, period. Right? We go
Mm-hmm.
through different experiences. We go through different events. Things happen around us. Things happen to us. We witness things happening that don't even directly impact our lives, but all that shapes who we are. And then I'm not even talking about on demand. I'm talking about just life in general, right? Whether, we have kids, we get married, I don't know, some big ones, pandemic, 9/11. I mean, and some small ones. A tornado passes by or
That's small.
What? Okay, big, fine. I don't know. Your car broke down. I mean, that small
Yeah.
I mean, all that shapes who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think what is hard is to see that impact while it's being made in that point of time. You don't know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because you're probably, if it's something tragic, you're very emotional, even if it's something positive, if it's something you've been working towards or whatever. These things can be very emotional. And you're trying to figure out that emotion. You're trying to deal with it in things in the moment. And it's not till later on, whether it's weeks, months, years, whatever, that you reflect and say, okay, I learned from this, or I didn't learn from it, and now it's time to take the steps to learn from it.
Yeah, that's important too.
So
That's often underestimated, right? Where the lesson could come in, months, weeks, months, years, decades later.
yeah, absolutely.
Reflecting
Absolutely.
back on the situation, say, yeah, well, maybe I should move on. Maybe this was a lesson. Maybe a point of reflection that could take place.
Absolutely. I mean, there's things that can happen to you in your childhood that change your relationships later in life, or how you conduct yourself in relationships, that you're not capable mentally. You're not developed enough mentally to see what they've done to you or to deal with it until you hit a certain age. When you're in your maybe late teens, if you're lucky, or somewhere in adulthood where you can say, oh, you know what? Yeah, that I see. Maybe, you'll see it reflected in someone else. You'll be like, oh, okay. You know what? I can see how that relates to me because I lived through similar circumstances or what have you. So those impacts, some of them are great. Some of them are not so great. And it can take a long time for you to see the impression that they've left on your life.
Do you think that positive or negative events shape us more?
Negative.
Why? Okay, so elaborate. Okay,
There you go. You asked me a one word question, and so I give you a one word answer.
Well, why do you think the negative events shape us more?
Because they hurt. Because I think they're harder to encapsulate. They're harder to deal with. They're the things that really carry over throughout the days after they've happened. And I think positive ones do too. But the negative ones, you have to seek some answers in them, I think, where when it's something positive, you don't have to dig as deep. It's just, it's what happened, and it was great. And it was, and I see the value of what the work I put into it to get to that point and stuff like that. So you can take that and you can share it, and you can, expose other people to it. But those negative ones, you kind of hold inside yourself for much longer. And they can eat away at you, and they have, if you don't deal with them, then they negatively affect things as, new things, right? I think we talked about one time about letting things go, where if you don't let it go, if you don't figure it out and let it go, well, then guess what? It impacts you in other stages of your life.
So if that's the case, why do we seek those positive events if they make such a less impact?
Well, again, going back to what you said about like in the moment, not knowing it. Well, you don't know it in the moment. I don't think you're seeking them out. Seeking out positive things is fun. It's cool. Maybe it's community, and you're doing it with other people, and, or it's like, I achieved this, I set out on a path to do it, and I did it. And that's all great. And you can carry that stuff with you, but that same person who's doing that might have had something negative that happened that's affecting other parts of their life, and they don't know it yet.
So were you saying that negative parts, negative experiences are more visible and more impactful emotionally, but the positive ones are more impactful long term?
No. I think that they can run parallel lines. You don't have to have all positive or all negative. They can run parallel lines, and you can be achieving great things, but still have something holding you back in other avenues of your life. Let's say, well, let's bring it to jiu-jitsu. You can be a great competitor, right? Because you're always going to make
hanging out with me for way too long.
You can be a great competitor, or you could be a really good hobbyist who comes to the academy and you do great at open mat, and you're excelling in classes and really developing. And then you go home and your home life isn't so great, or your work life isn't so great. Well, why? It's not, I don't think it's just a set of circumstances that you find yourself in. Something set you on that path too. And it's hard. I think that's harder to figure out. It's easier to figure out, well, why am I excelling at this? It's because I'm putting in the work. I'm putting in the time. Well, why am I not excelling at something else? It's their fault. They did it. They put me in this, whoever they, them, they're out there, real or perceived. And that's harder to, I think, for people to navigate and wrap their head around.
I'm thinking.
Jeez. You got to talk. This is a podcast. Don't think, talk.
Well, but I think I'm just trying to figure out which one, like if the negative events impact us more, why do we drive for the positive ones, right? Because nobody wants anything negative happening to you.
They don't.
I don't think there's one person in the world, but nobody
There's
wants
self-sabotage, right? I mean, you do things,
but it's not willingly. Nobody's going to say, "I want bad things to happen to me." Nobody.
No,
wants
but they'll
that.
say nothing good ever happens to me.
But okay, so,
So they're seeking that out in their own way.
But I'm going to go back to that. Why the negative is more impactful? Why, if you get a reward, you forget about it? And why, if you lose, it sticks with you?
It eats at your ego probably a little bit. If we're just talking strictly like winning or losing, it probably sticks with it. It hurts your ego a little bit. So it could possibly be a little more impactful. Winning is great, but there's always a fear of losing with winning, right? Isn't that always in the back of your head? I could possibly lose, and then you have a point there. You do, and now you have to figure out why. I don't think it's hard to figure out why you're winning. It's laid out in front of you. You're showing up. You're putting in the work. You're doing the best you can. You have great people around you helping you. It's harder to figure out why I'm losing, and then I think people get back to that finger pointing.
Okay.
Instead of really figuring it out.
So here's a thought. If we succeed, no action is needed. We can technically continue on because the success is behind us. So if we take the same recipe, we can continue with a positive attitude approach. For a while, right? But if we don't succeed, immediate change is needed. Yep. Otherwise, the negative or not successful path will continue.
Yes.
So could that be the reason why it sticks with us more? Because in order for us to be successful, the change is needed, and change is hard.
Change, yeah, I think so. Change is hard. It's hard to change what you're doing in your routine, and why am I failing on the mat? That's hard. And then why am I failing at home? Why am I failing at work? Why am I angry all the time? I think those.
why? Whoa!
I'm projecting.
Why are you angry
myself.
all the time? Why are you?
The company I keep.
Ray, shout out to Ray.
I lost track, but it's that stuff. I think that's the real hard work, is figuring out the negative impacts and how to deal with them. Or when something impacts you negatively, the hard work is figuring out how to not let it happen again in a structured, positive way. Something happens in a relationship. Well, I'm not going to get in any relationships anymore. Well, that's not figuring it out. That's just putting up a wall up front. Mm-hmm. Take it to the mats. Well, why is my guard getting passed all the time? Well, because it sucks. My guard sucks. I'm going to move on to something. I'm going to be first, and I'm going to be on top all the time. Well, that's great, but you're not going to be on top all the time. And you need to deal with the situation when you're on your back and not getting your guard passed. You have to deal with that. You can't just blow it off and think you're going to become good at something else, and that's going to make up for it. So if I'm horrible in my relationships, being successful at my job is not going to make up for that. I bet your relationships at your job suck. You might be making money, you might be moving up the ladder, but I bet your relationships aren't that great.
So how do you balance all this? I mean, you're talking about mad, off the mat, relationship, professional life, friends, relationship, family. And there's a lot of juggling all around. How do you balance that? Because essentially what you're saying is that if something happens, there's a life impactful event, we need to draw some conclusions and we need to make changes if necessary. And then we have to develop some plan and act upon it.
Yes.
Right?
You just answered your question.
So how do you balance?
You just answered your question.
How do you balance?
You get up and you do the work. That's all.
But it's hard.
So what?
It's hard.
It is, right? We live in a generation now where it's like, everything's handed to everybody. And I think that everybody our age throughout history has said that about the generations that come after them. So you have to look at that. You have to put that own spotlight on yourself and say, okay, it's hard for me. Why is it hard for me? Is it because of outside influences, or is it because of how you're not dealing with the things that you need to deal with to make things less hard? That's all. Just make it less hard. A little bit every day of making it less hard. You'll find success.
I got to tell you that there is something behind that thought.
I have my moments, man.
We need to figure out what impactful event creates those moments for you, because
these are not the podcasts for that. No, I am not willing. I'll bare my soul to certain people, but not yet. I'm not there yet. I don't want to overshare either.
I do want to say one thing about Victor. What a great episode, and I do want to say that that event that he experienced really shaped all of it, and you guys got to listen to what it was. But I have to confess you a little bit. I thought it was first as a joke, and
it's if you put yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought first it was a joke, and then that really turned into a very impactful event, in a negative way, and he drew out of it. So first, I feel bad now that we were kind of joking around, as the things happen,
Yeah.
But it's what an inspiring story.
Mm-hmm.
What an inspiring story, and I think a lot of people could really draw the positive conclusion out of all this.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he had a chance to walk away, like he wanted to, and yet.
Well, he did for a long time.
For 4 years.
Yeah, as a child. So this was something that happened as a kid, just to frame it a little bit. We won't tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
And it's not something horrific, but it was something that made a big impact on him and how he wanted to live his life, his adolescence, basically.
Yeah.
Are we done?
I don't know. You tell me.
21 minutes in, I think we should be done.
That's
we're pushing our luck.
That's enough of people listening to us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to the next one. This was a good one.
Yep.
Tune in.
Peace.
Later.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.